Hello everyone and welcome to Full Stack Application Development, a demo of the whole darn stack. So I'm hoping over the next 2-ish hours or so, I can help you see how the pieces fit together a little bit more. So I'm going to make a Barkwire app. And so we'll start with the front end and we'll work our way to the back and we'll work in thin vertical slices. Don't try to follow along. I'm going to go full speed so that we can see the flow of how these things work. Shoot, anything else you want to talk about before we get started? All right, let's dig in. Okay, so I'm going to head over to my practice folder, and I'm going to start by making an Angular app. So I'm going to do npx at Angular CLI new. Barkwire full stack demo. Sure. Would I like to add routing? Well, yes, I would. Let's get Sass in there. All right, so it scaffolds out all of these pages, installs all my dependencies. Man, I really like having all the dependencies in the project folder. If you have a lot of projects, like, it adds up. That's always the thing that's just killing my computer. But like I was talking about Brooks yesterday in one of those questions, like having them in the computer causes so many other problems. Keep the entire thing in one folder feels a lot more sane to me. All right, so I hop into Barkwire full stack demo. Why don't I just go ahead and make a new workspace for this. So I'm going to start up this server. Head over to localhost 4200. And the first feature that I'm going to work on is listing dogs. Easy enough, right? So I'm going to head over to my app component, get rid of all this boilerplate, so all that should go away. Cool. And I'm going to scaffold out this app. So remember, we just start by hard coding everything, get the styling right, get everything that somebody actually interacts with working. And then all we need to do is keep it that way as we're breaking this apart, making the data dynamic, adding an API, all that kind of stuff. So this is going to have a header with an H1. It will have a main section. With dogs. Cool, and then each dog is going to have an image. And and a description. All right, cool. Not so very bad. I'll make a couple of those just so I can see them. Excellent. So now I want to get some pictures in there. There, that's the stuff. Perfect. All right, excellent. All right, so now those things are in there. I'm going to work on styles. So anything that relates to the entire application, I actually don't want to do in this file. I want to do in the app. Oh, styles, styles SCSS. So first thing I want is the reset. Give me a CDN for that. Cool. All right, cool. So now everything's reset. I'm also going to put some typography in here. Google fonts. Parkwire is a little fun and playful. So let's get those serifs out of here. Let's get a good... oops. Let's get a good sans serif. My mom named her dog Molly Joy. Yep. Nice. My septuagenarian mother just got a new dog. Molly Joy. Excellent. All right, this is kind of speaking to me. I like it. Cool. So then let's apply that. Wait, why does it still have Poppins? I don't want Poppins. Oh, I didn't pick a style. That's why. Let's do a 400 and a 200. Really, like, lightweight fonts only work big, but they do look just slick when you do them that way. Change the quotes on those. There we go. So font family, enter with a fallback to sans serif. All right, very nice. And then while I'm at it, let's do just a little bit of typography work. H1s are going to be font weight 200, so I can get that lightweight one that I brought in and make it a little bit bigger too. Let's call it. Yeah. And then I'm going to put some padding around the whole body. Maybe. All right. Push some stuff down from here. And I'm going to lighten up the top and bottoms of this some. Yeah, it's a little bit better. Cool. And then for an H2, cool. And I'm going to do a little reset of my own and say that images have a max width of 100%. Then I can just constrain this container or whatever container it's in and just kind of work with that. And all right. So that's all I'm going to do for global styles. Now, for the stuff that I have in this dog listing, I'm going to go to the app component SCSS. In my dog listing, I'm going to, should I flex or grid those? I'm going to grid them. So I'll say this is a display grid. I'll say, and I want it to kind of look like this. I want each of these cards to have that, and then the name, and then the description. So what I'm going to do is make a, well, you know, I was going to say make a 2-column grid and then handle all that there, but shoot, I guess I could do a grid kind of like that. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I think I can get rid of some of my elements too. These like details. Yeah, let's simplify that design a little bit. Okay, so for the grid, that's a 2x2 grid. The 2 rows are going to be auto and auto. We'll just let the size of the text sort of determine spacing on those. And then the size of our columns, I want to fix. So this will maybe be like 200 pixels fixed, and this will be whatever's left. So that's grid template rows is auto. Grid template columns is 200 pixels and then whatever. And these have an image and a name. I'm going to put a class on this too. Okay, so I have a dog avatar, a dog name, and a dog description. Dog avatar, dog name, dog description. And then I'm going to say that this one has a grid column. Nope. Grid column of one span one. I think that's the syntax. Might be wrong on that. And a grid row of one span two. All right, cool. I guessed right. And then I'm going to do the same thing with these. This one is grid column, starts at grid column line 2, starts on grid row 1, only spans 1 though. And then this one's the same except it starts on grid row 2. There we go. Very nice. Oh, actually, I take it back. I don't want to auto both of those. I want to auto just the heading and then have that take up the rest. That's what I was looking for. That looks like I didn't maybe get these closed correctly, maybe. I'm curious why that's on its own line. Let's take a peek. So I want to look at this dog listing. See this grid thing here? If I turn that on, I can sort of see what's happening. Ah! Yeah, that one's not spanning the top and the bottom. Ah, it's not picking up the style. Interesting. Oh, it's because I didn't put the class on the other two. That'll do it. Much better. Takeaway that I would have you have from this is always stop and fix that stuff.
Kyle, I'm sorry to interrupt. Your class. Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, cool. It's a little bit more what I had in mind. But yeah, always stop and fix this stuff. It's always going to save you time in the long run. Okay, so other thing in my dog listing. So the dog name, I'm suddenly wishing I had maybe a different weight. What if I just make the font size a little bigger? Yeah, that's all right. And then let's say the dog name and dog description have some padding. But maybe not so much on the top. And then this name will have a margin bottom. All right, cool. That's not so bad. And then this whole thing, I'm going to have those pushed down just a little bit. That's pretty good. And since this is like a pretty fun, playful site, I'm going to radius this image just a little bit too. Maybe a little more than that. That's pretty good. So it's very subtle, just makes a little bit of rounding on those corners. And I'm a little torn on whether or not those should have shadows, but yeah, that's fine for right now. Okay, so now this is making me think that like this should probably be a component. So I can say npx ng generate component dog listing. All right, it makes me a dog listing component. So if I head over to that, grab the HTML, grab one of these, put it over here. Oops. Then I should be able to do app dog listing. And everything should work exactly the same. All right, so I broke the styles because all of them are like specific to this component. So I can rip them out of that. Put them over here instead. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. It works, it's broken. It works, it's broken. Little tiny steps. Okay, so then we need to figure out which parts of this are hard-coded. So like, hey, this name probably shouldn't be hard-coded. So we can say that's part of like a name input. So if I head over to the dog listing component TS file, I can give it an input of name. And oh, I can't make it private. Duh. And then I'm going to say that it's required to import that. All right, cool. Getting somewhere. While I'm at it, let's get rid of this constructor and this ng on a init and this interface and this import. Get rid of these stupid single quotes. All right, so now it's looking for an input, which is good. So I'm going to start by binding that to just a fixed string. Cool, made it in. So if I do that with all of these, all right, progress. So same thing with the description. Already time to start breaking this up onto multiple lines. Cool. And then one more while I'm over here. Let's take care of the image URL as well. Cool. Okay, so now that component is dynamic, I just need to add inputs for image URL and description. And then make all of these dynamic too. And we're back in business. And we've got a dynamic component. All right, so the next step is I don't want to hard code all of those things. I want them to like happen dynamically. So I start pulling those back. I'm going to copy that over to app component HTML. Nope. App component TS. Get rid of that title. And now I'm going to have like a dogs property. So dogs are an array of dogs that initializes to an empty array. Actually, no. It's going to initialize to an array with all of this. Get rid of all those inner single quotes. Nice. Okay, it goes, hey, what's a dog? I'll tell you what a dog is. It's a name, and it's an image URL, and it's a description. All right, and hey, we're working again. Slowly pulling this data back. So I have a real good idea. That should probably be, that's effectively like the model for a dog. So let's just make a place to put it. I head over to source. I'm going to put this in app. I'm going to make a models folder and touch models dog.ts. And it is going to just have this, and it's going to export it. Could have also made that a class. I think that's probably a little more normal. But I really like that type alias syntax. All right, it's imported. While we're at it, let's update these. Okay, so everything's still working. Next step, as we pull this data back and back and back, is to have this come from a service. So let's npx ng generate service for dog. Oh, shoot. No wonder those things are all working. They're still all hard-coded in. Before I use the service, how about, instead of having these hard-coded, I ng4 them. And then this becomes dog.name, dog.image URL, dog.description. And now I should see like 3 more of them. Yeah, there we go. All right, now it's working. All right, let's clean up the workspace a little bit. Head over to that service. What I want to do is move the dog stuff that I hard-coded from here to here. Import that model. Cool. And then I need to put this in a, I need to inject that service. So I'll have a constructor that says that it has a private dog service, which is a dog service. I will import it. Cool. And then I'm going to add the on a knit interface. Implements. And then make an ng on a knit that this dot dog service dot dogs, and does this dot dogs equals. All right, still working. So we've moved it from hard-coded in the thing to broken out into a component to pulled back into a top-level component to pushed out to a service, back and back and back. Okay, so really the last thing that we need to do is do this asynchronously. So we're going to make a method called fetchDogs that fakes out doing this asynchronous, just so we can get that code working. Part of the goal of working this way is that, like, at one end we have the HTML, on the other end we have the database, and it goes through so many steps to get from here to here. Every step of the way, if I can shore up this template stuff, I can go, cool, well, I know that's not a problem because it works. So any new problem is going to happen here. All right, I got that. Now that's not a problem anymore either. And so I can just keep going back in tiny steps and make things not problems anymore. So let's get this asynchronous code figured out before we actually have an API. So this will be, I'm going to use the of, which is built into RxJS. And it just turns that array into an observable. So now this code needs to be a little bit different. That's going to have to subscribe to get the dogs. That way. But if I did that correctly, nope. It's called fetchDogs. Cool. So now at this point, this component does not give a shit where those dogs come from. They could have come from like a hard-coded observable like we're doing now. It could come from HTTP. This component doesn't know. All it knows is that it subscribed to this and it got the stuff back. So that's everything for this listing feature for the front end. So now it's time to commit these changes. And get this thing deployed. So I'm going to head over to GitHub. All right, so I make a repo there. Add it over here, git remote add origin that thing. There she blows. So, while I'm at it, let's Do I want to change anything in this README? Maybe. Oops. This will be bark wire. I'll keep all the rest of this. Put that there. All right, excellent. Now I'm going to head over to Netlify. Excellent. I'm going to add a new site. Cool. Base directory. Help me out with this. It's dist. No, sorry. It's in the root directory already. The published directory is dist, and then is it barkwire fs demo?
It's whatever the title of the app is.
Yeah, that's what I thought. All right. Barkwire fs demo. That is correct. And all right, so this deployment is firing off right now. I want to verify that that works before I start building out the back end. While I'm waiting for that, questions so far? All right, looks like it's deployed. Hey, cool. So you can hit this, anybody can. It is public on the internet. Another reason to do your apps this way. I had a heart attack. Cool. I've done something valuable. Like the project is some degree of done. If I had scaffolded out all of the pages and had all these things, but I just had this one working, then I have a big fucking mess that is never quite ready to show. So the goal is every single time, like you're getting to some state of done where you could theoretically just stop and walk away. And at every step, you're adding just one more feature, one more feature, one more feature, but you're cleaning up behind you as you go, rather than starting 4 features and then you're not actually done until all 4 of them are done. Okay, cool. So let's make a backend. So for this one, I'm going to head over to the LMS. So this will be barkwire. Now let's see. All right, step 1. There we go. Oops, nope. Ah. All right, so am I using Java 11? Yes, I am. What's my domain? This is for Kyle Coverly. This is Barkwire API. All of those dependencies are okay. I'm going to put it in the Barkwire API folder. Ah, come on, man. Let's get rid of RVM. There we go. Okay, so I have this Barkwire API folder. Hey, we've seen these before, right? Should be real familiar to us by now. So step one, I got to get init. Done. I have to add env to the get ignore. It is so. Need to make a database. So I'm going to create db Barkwire API. Need to make a file called .env and put all that stuff in it. So I'm going to vim .env. Oops. Oh, well, why my browser is just like, nope, on copy pasting that stuff. All right, I called that Barkwire API. Excellent. I need to add the .env dependency, which is in application properties. Oops, that's still the, it's in my POM file. So I add this dependency. Come on, man. There it is. Okay, that made it in okay. And then in my application properties file, let's read everything out of the environment instead of hard coding it. And like, again, this is the line that makes Spring Boot manage all your database structure and stuff for you. So I'm not going to have to make any tables or set the columns or any of that kind of stuff. That line right there means, Spring, can you do all that for me? Which is cool. I'm actually not aware of another backend solution that like does that way. I think that's pretty brilliant, actually. All right, and then last thing, I need to make a system properties file. Put that in. All right, next thing, I gotta launch the app. And let's sanity check that this works the way we think it does. All right, so it's running on port 8080. Can I find the error page? Yep, good. So next step, going down the guide, is to add an exception handler. So I'm going to head into the app directory. I'm going to make a package for exception. And I'm going to make this resource not found exception.java. And put all that in it. Cool, and hopefully it goes, hey, that's not the package name. Any minute now. His job is like, there it is. I want to change it to that. All right, now it's working. Okay, now we need to add a resource. We're going to do this slightly differently than we've done it in the past because we're trying to work in these thin vertical slices. But I do need all four of these things to handle the resource. So I've got that exception package there. I want to make a dog package. I'm going to make dog.java. Yeah, all those. And then my model. And then my model should look something like this. All right, so let's wait for it to yell at me. There it is. Change the package declaration, change the class name. This is the name of the database table that it should make and or read. So I want this table to be called dog. That's how it's going to figure out how to auto-generate the IDs, and then any columns that we need. So it needs a name. So we'll call that one name, and we'll call the property for it name. Then it also has ones for description and image URL. Cool, that's the model. Repository. We can copy and paste all of this. There we go. Now it's starting to get mad nice and quick. Well, let me fix it. There we go. Change the package declaration. Don't need it. Change the interface name. And this is a dog. I think everything else is probably fine. Oh, it needs, nope, there we go. All right, excellent. So the service is where we're going to start thinning things out a little bit. I'm just going to do as much service as I need. So we'll start with that. I said I'll start with that. And yeah, that's it. All right, so this becomes fix the package declaration, fix the class name. This should be a dog repository. This should be an iterable of dogs. Cool, service is done. Doesn't even need the optional. Okay, so yeah, all this does is give us a way to list dogs. And over in this controller, bring in these imports. And then we just care about this first one really for right now. And it's create hash plural. I could probably be talked into putting this create hash plural thing in the service instead. Might be a better place for it. Oops. Nope. Come on. There it is. Okay, so now let's fix all of our squigglies. Change the package declaration. This is com Kyle Coberly Barkwire API exception. All right, and then this is going to just do it under dogs. That was it? Yeah. So we're going to take every instance of the word some resource and just make it dog. So this is just a find replace. Some resource becomes dog. And then the camel cased one works like that. And that should get rid of a decent number of squigglies. Cool, not bad. So when a request comes in for dogs, calls list, which calls this list thing, makes a hash out of it, returns a response. Awesome, I like it. Cool, time to deploy. So let's head back over to the root. Make a commit. So, all right, so then we follow the instructions here. Make a new Heroku app. Called Barkwire API. Yeah, I think that's one of mine. Barkwire Full Stack API. There we go. Okay, so I also need to connect this to GitHub. So let's go ahead and do that. Barkwire Full Stack Backend. How about? So git remote add origin that git push origin master. Suppose I could have seen if it worked locally before I started trying to deploy. Let's try that. So I'll run the Spring Boot command. All right, cool. Running on 8080. So if I go to /dogs, awesome. Yeah, somebody was asking about like the rest of the JSON. This is a JSON view of it. That's the actual response that it got back. Who wants to see that though? Pretty printed, I guess. That's a little bit more useful. So yeah, if I wanted to put dogs in this local database, I could pSQL into the database. This was Barkwire API. I can go in here and I can insert into dog value. Is it name, description, image URL, values, Bixby, and then that, oops. Oh, I see, because the database is like making the ID, or sorry, the Spring Boot is making the ID, not me. So I do need to put the ID in there. Suck. All right. All right, so if I do that, that inserts something into the database. If I hit up my API, I get all that back. Sick. I could have also done that with a SQL file. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, all of it is just like, hey, what data do you want to play around with? There we go. So, all right, works locally. Now over in Heroku land. Full stack backend. So I connect it. I do a deploy. Oops, before I did a deploy, I probably should have added a database. So I can go to Postgres, Heroku Postgres, get me a new database. Cool, done. And let me see if it exploded. Not yet. All right, cool. It successfully started. So that means I should be able to go over here and go to /dogs. Excellent! So that's my production database. Doesn't have anything to do with my local database. It's a completely separate database. So I can still like log into it if I want to, do stuff. So for example, maybe what I want to do is do something like make a seed SQL file. And the job of this is going to be to give us that same starter data that we had before. So insert into dog, ID, name, description, image, URL. And this will be like 1 Bixby And then, so have that on my, yeah, sick. All right, cool. And then just like a couple of those. Here, I'll change it up. And let's get some different images too. Oops. Oops. This one. Copy image link.
You need an escape character.
John, we can't really hear you. Put down your. Yeah, there you go.
There it is. Do we need an escape character for the apostrophe for she's a piggy?
Yep.
Is there a way to do that in the sequel?
Yep. Good call. All right, so now I've got some seed data. Oh, and since I want that to seed, I should also get rid of anything that's already there. So I'm going to truncate dog. That keeps the table, but it just takes all the data out of it. And then I'm going to grab this database URL, and then I'm going to pSQL that seed file. Oop. Didn't like my escape character. Oh, in SQL it might be 2 quotes. My my thing doesn't think so. Let's see. Yeah, that's what I thought. All right, let me see if it'll let me do that. My language server be damned. Yeah, that worked. Come on, man. All right. So, all right, so my production database has data now. Excellent. All right, last part of this is now I need to be able to connect my front end to my back end. So this is where this this like idea of environment variables comes into play, because so this is my local one, and I'm running this server over here. So if I go into my editor and I go into that dog service, instead of this, I try to fetch it from the API. It'd be like return this.http, which I also need to get the HTTP service hooked up. But it's going to be like all that. So this will be private HTTP. It's HTTP client, right, John? You should always have this fast at hand.
Yeah, it's HTTP client. You need to import. I don't think it's. Yeah, it's not liking that.
You have to do it from the module first.
It already needs to be. There we go. So
Yeah.
it'll be an app module TS. So if I import HTTP client module from Angular, look at this guy, common HTTP. Hey, I'm learning bit by bit. Okay, so that one's in there. And then, still didn't get it. All right, import HTTP client. Cool. Why does it think I'm not using the HTTP client? I think I might have just pissed off Vim. Let me close that. And all right, it's not still mad at me anymore. I'll take that as a win. Oh, I see why it was. It was because of that. I don't need of anymore because I actually have the real observable. All right, cool. So now I get that thing in there. And if I check locally, this dot dogs because I need to type my GET request. So the thing that comes back from this is a dog response. So it's going to have a dogs key, which is an array of dogs. Or I call that dogs response. Dogs response. And then I need to make it so that this is like response.dog. So it pulls it out of the actual thing. Hey, look, read that out of my local database. Not my production database. My production database had 3 records on it. So this is where we come back to this idea that my computer is currently running an Angular server, a Spring Boot server, and a database, as well as a browser. Everything's happening inside I don't even need to be on the internet for any of this to work. My browser goes inside of my computer to look at this Angular thing. My Angular thing makes an HTTP request to my Spring Boot thing that's also in my computer. It connects to the database server, which, wait for it, also inside my computer. Gets that stuff back, gets that stuff back, shows that inside my browser. An excellent way to develop software. Nobody else who's not on like my home network can see any of this. That's substantially less helpful. So we need to get this stuff on Heroku. Already done. We need to get this stuff on Netlify. Already done. The last thing that we're missing is that these two need to be able to find each other, because this thing right there, that's a problem. Right now, my service just hard codes this URL to like my local host. Netlify doesn't, its local host isn't my local host. Netlify can't make an API request on my home computer. That's no good. So I need a way to make this local host when I'm running it on my computer. I need to make it Heroku when it's running on Netlify. That is because they are different environments. So step one is let's pull this into a URL. So I'm just going to make a dogs endpoint. Cool. And then I need to tell Angular how to pull this out of the environment. So I've never actually done this in Angular before, but remember I mentioned that all of these things are kind of the same? I'll bet it's kind of the same way you do it everywhere else. So I have that. Do I already have an environment variable? No, doesn't look like I do. So I would go Angular environment variables. Okay. In the source environment folder, you have, that's maybe where it is. Yeah. Hey, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Oops. Nope. Okay, cool. So, this file can be replaced during build using the file replacements array. Okay, so I want something that's like a dogs endpoint. Oops. Like that. Except I'm going to go back to my normal text editor. Environment, dogs endpoint. Like that. Okay, and then how am I supposed to read this out? Oh, it's just a global called environment. That's pretty sick. So that's over in my dog service. Then this becomes environment dot dogs endpoint. Probably could also destructure that out. Oh, is it going to be mad at me about not having that as part of the type? Maybe. Ah, there we go. So up here, I import. Oh, that's crazy easy. I just literally import the environment. Easy enough. All right, now it's not so mad at me anymore. But does it still work? Go over here, refresh. Hey, everything still works. So now this is generic. This doesn't know that it's getting it from a local database server. It's just getting it from wherever this thing says. And magic, when it does ng build, whatever we have in here gets swapped out for whatever's in there. So if I go to this file instead, hey, looks sort of similar, right? Well, I can put different values in there, including whatever this one is. I'd also say that like the endpoint, I'm going to say, I'm going to change this from dogs endpoint to base API URL, because I don't want to put the endpoints for every single stupid thing in here. I'm just going to put the root of the server. So like this one, it's not that. It's really just localhost 8080. So that's base API URL. And then over in the service, this becomes base API URL. And then I can do string interpolation to build the endpoint. Like that. All right, does it still work locally? I broke something. Let's figure out what it is. So that made it to, HTTPS. It's not HTTPS locally. There we go. All right, now it's working locally. I have it set up to point to the right place in production. Moment of truth. Add database connection. So then we just push that up and we hang out for a sec while it deploys. So I don't know if that'll automatically update. I'm kind of guessing not.
You didn't turn on automatic deployments either on the API thing, or automatic updates.
Oh, I didn't? I thought I did. Maybe you're probably right. Let's see. Also, I didn't change anything on the API, so there's nothing. Yeah, you're right. Doesn't matter though, because the API didn't change. So like, there's nothing new for it to update. I only changed the front end. Oh, is that now? Yeah, that's now. Hey, what do you know? There's all the dogs from my production database. That's a full stack app. I'll do a couple more features, but how about I pause there? Ask me some questions.
Kyle, when you go to your base API URL in your browser, what shows up on the web page itself?
Probably that error page, I would guess. Like my production one?
Yeah, that one from Heroku.
Yeah, probably the error page.
So what you were doing was you added /dogs to the end to get all that information on the web browser itself.
Correct.
Okay.
And like the reason I put the base API URL in there is I might have 30 different endpoints. Those aren't all different environment variables. That's stuff like, then I'd have a dog endpoint. And at that point, I'd probably stop saving these in environment variables altogether. Like I'd probably just do something like that. a little bit less indirection. Keep them coming. What else?
Sorry. How would your 404 handler, I guess, interact with like a 404 page that you create?
So what you would do is, if this service errors out, you can do that like catch error pipe handler, and then use your like programmatic router navigation to have it re-navigate to a 404 route. But yeah, a user would never see this. It would just be a different route from the router that, like, if this throws an error, then have Angular router send you over to your 404.
Okay. Thank you.
When you were building the database, you mentioned that you would you could justify putting it in your service. What did you mean by that? Like,
oh,
and I can't even remember the exact statement.
It was. Ooh, something I didn't like here. Interesting. So, what I meant was that if I take a look at the controller for this, I'm building out this hash here in the controller. I think there's a decent argument to be made that this could happen inside of the service instead. So instead of having my service just replace or like return that list of dogs, and then in the controller turning them into the hash here, not a terrible idea to put that in the service instead. And then have this return create hash plural all of those, maybe. Let's say iterable dogs return cool, and then import map, import hash map, for map string iterable dog. And this, yeah, okay, I see. So then this is going to return that instead. Needs an extra buddy. There we go. So if I do this in the service instead of the controller, now I don't need that one there. And instead of the list returning that, we just return that directly. And yep, everything else is the same. That makes sense. I'd buy that. More questions? All right, I'm gonna take a break for just a sec. You can hang tight if you want to. I'm gonna pause the video.
Was that just so that it uses either one, or are you selecting which one it uses, your local database or your deployed database?
Super good question. So what I've tried to do is make it so that my app code is identical regardless, just by making that a variable. So by reading that out of the environment, now the app code is exactly the same regardless. So then I have two different ways that I can do that. So that's the development one. Delete all this. So that's the development one. That's the production one. So the way that it knows which one to use is when I do npm start, it uses this one. When I do npm run build, which is what Netlify does, it uses this one.
Okay, so how it's being built will determine it, and that's whatever source you're using. Okay.
Correct. And the way it works for the API, a little bit different. With Spring Boot, it reads it out of the environment. So like that print env thing I did earlier with all the environment variables, that's my environment. Heroku has a completely different set of these. And so it can read those directly. And so what I do is that .env plugin that you install right at the beginning, it allows you to put variables in the environment. And then Heroku does the same thing. Every time you do a deploy, Heroku injects variables into the environment. And you can add your own with this like config vars thing. Yeah, those are the little holes in the template. More questions? All right, let's see if we can get a form figured out before stand down. So now that all of this is done and the deployments are figured out and the environment variables and all this kind of stuff, the subsequent features get a lot easier. And we did all that stuff and we were debugging it and troubleshooting it when the app barely does anything. That's the time you want to figure out deployment. That's the time that you want to debug all this environment shit. Because if all of that works when it's nothing, when you add one more thing and it stops working, something about the thing that you just added was the thing that broke it. That's one of the reasons to do all this. Okay, so I'm going to wipe the slate clean on this.
Are you still recording this one?
I am. Thank you for checking.
Okay.
Update environment code. All right, so I'm going to start by just putting all of this in the app component file like I did here. So I'll make a form. Where's my local? This is also a mighty fine time to just delete a lot of these tabs. Bye. I'll keep that one. I'll keep that one. Bye. Yeah, I'll keep that. Cool. Bye. All right. Oops. I can't read the dogs anymore. Oh, did I stop my server? But I stopped my server. Yep, that's exactly what I did.
That one's on 4200, so wouldn't that be the npm start? No.
Yeah, but I can see that part of it. What I wasn't getting was the API responses back. Those were the things that were failing because I wasn't actually running the server. Okay, so over here, if I make a form and forms have labels for the name, All right, now we're getting flavor country. So this will have a name and an image. And this will be a text area. Cool. How about we style that? All right, so I make a new dog form over an app component. New dog form. I'll say some of this I'm just going to put in the overall style reset. We'll say that every input and label should be block. Better. As well as being 100%. Okay, so that looks like it makes them to, and text area. Okay, so that feels counterintuitive. Why would I want those to always be 100%? Because I want to use the width of the form to determine how wide they get. So I can say that the entire form should be no more than 500. And now they're all constrained. And that's too much. So they take up as much as they can of the form, but that's not quite the same thing as taking up the whole screen. All right, and then I'm going to say that labels should all be gray. A little bit darker. And have a little bit of bottom margin. And be a little bit smaller. Cool. And then inputs and text areas. I'm going to push down a little bit. Cool. I'm also going to give those a little bit of padding. Too much. Better. I'm going to radius those corners a little bit. Use the same radius that I used before, which was, oh, that was in the other one. It was 4 pixels. And as soon as you do that, it stops doing the border defaults. So I'm going to say these are 1 pixel solid HSL. See if I can make them the same gray as the label. Nice. Even lighten them up a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then I'm going to say text areas can't be resized. And Cool. Now back over here, do some more specific stuff. Say the text area should have a min height of 100 pixels. Cool. Okay, now this form needs a button. Cool. And oh, my most favorite reset. Box sizing, border box. The one thing that I think is just broken in CSS. Maybe. There we go. And I'm going to change that submit button to, I'm going to give it a really light background color. So some kind of blue, RGB, so it's 240, and like 90% lightness. Cool. And then maybe no border. But that is going to have a drop shadow. And pro tip, make your shadows a color. Just desaturate them a lot. Looks way more natural than using black. And oops, wrong one. There it is. And likewise, having black on like any colored background is like no bueno. So you can actually use the same color as the background, but just invert the lightness. Instantly looks better. Cool, I'll take it. So, all right, so I have a working form now. Now I need to angular formify it. So I'm going to read my own guide to that. Let's see, that was in static actually, I think. All right, so I need to go over to my module, bring in the forms module. Done. So then over in the actual form, I need to give it a reference. And then I need to add ng model to each of those inputs. Cool. And then when the form is submitted, I want to listen for the ng submit event. Now, whenever that happens, I call add dog with new dog form dot value. It goes, hey Kyle, there is no add dog method. Not for long. So for now, I'm just going to console log the new dog. The new dog should be I think it's just a dog. Let's see how it likes it. Okay, so if I say Bixby and put that thing in there. Name, description, image dash URL. All right, just to make the type match up, I'm gonna make that match that. So if I do that again, description, image URL, name. It's what you love to see. So any kind of like actual data stuff, that should get handled by the service. So we're going to push all this stuff back to the service. So dog service TS will make a add dog that takes in a dog. It's going to make an HTTP post request, which should come back with a dog response. Like that. It uses the same base URL, but it also needs that dog. Cool. So that's it for the front end. Oh, actually, one more thing. Whenever the thing is like successfully added, we want to like, you know, presumably do something. So oh, crumb. How would I do this from Angular? I was going to say I want to reset the form. For right now, I'll say it calls this dot service dot add dog with the new dog. We can subscribe to that, and oh, I know what I want to do. And then whenever that successfully occurs, we can make this dot dogs. We can spread that dog into it. Dog or dog response is not assignable to dog. Why would it be dog response? Because that's the response. There we go. Cool. So yeah, whenever that comes back, that'll get added. Actually, I want to do it the other way around. I want it to show up at the top. So one of the nice things about spreading, we can just move this stuff around. All right, so yeah, that's it for the front end. Make this work on the back end. Don't need to do anything with the model. The model already exists. So let's head over to the service. Also don't need to do anything with the repository. The repository is identical. Only thing that's changing is we need some way to handle adding a dog in the service. So head over to the guide, head down to the service. Let's find the create. And this is going to return a dog. And a dog, and a dog, a dog repository, and a dog. All right, what's it mad about? There we go. Okay, that's it for the service. Oh, that's right. We're also moving that. It's called serialization. You turn something into JSON. This was create hash singular. Should probably also put that over here.
For your, I know you were wanting to clear out that form. When all you need to do is on submit after you've done all your tasks, so you can just say this dog equals a blank string, or this name equals blank string. And shouldn't that do it?
Because they're an object? Maybe. Maybe. I would have assumed I would have been getting copies of those, but it might be pointing to the same thing. We can find out in a sec. All right. So then this thing is going to be that, and then return create hash singular dog. Wait for all this to wrap. Oh, that's right. New dog. Or no, I'm going to call this saved dog. Cannot convert from, because that is now a map. There we go. All right, so service is in pretty good shape. Let's take a look at what we need for the controller. So that's going to be this create one. So we can snag that. Dog controller.java there. Good. 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 Some resource service. That's dog service. This is a dog. 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 This is a created dog. And then we just return that. There it goes. Hey, what's validated? Validated checks that whatever got sent over in the body like actually matches what the model says. Request body is where is how it turns this dog into a like instance of the dog model. And otherwise, I think it's in pretty good shape. So to find out whether or not it works, let's see if it works. So now I'm starting my development server. My front end was already done. And if I so boot it up okay, that's a good sign. I'm going to grab that image link and try to add a dog called also Bixby. And all right, some didn't work. So it 500'd. That means that the server broke. So this is our server. Duplicate key value. Oh God, this is the problem with trying to seed stuff with IDs. All right, let's try this. I'm going to get to that seed file. This is the dumbest way to do this, by the way, but it'll get us through for right now. Just make this some high number. You're just kicking the can down the road. You're making it so that it'll break 1,000 records in mysteriously. So now that I have that, I can do something like, come on, P-SQL, what was it? Barkwire API F. All right, so now if I try to do it and I start that server again, I'm sure that like you can tell that annotation to start at 4 instead of 1 or something like that. That's probably a smarter way to do it. All right, let's try that again. Hey, look! Added it to my database. Server didn't explode. So all of this stuff locally worked just fine. So that gives me some confidence that when I push all of these things up to the real internet, they will continue to work. So I'm also going to reseed that production database just for the lols. So that was that thing right there. P-SQL. All right. Moment of truth. This is add create dog endpoint. So that API is deploying now. I go over here, add create dog form. I could also like I could put that dog form like in a new route or something now, which would make sense. But I'm just going to push both of those up. Both of those are up. So whenever these deploys finish, all right. So that deployment finished. And over here, want that one to update. Just did. So I go over here. I have my form. I have these pals. I want more guinea pigs. This guy. Ooh, no. Oh, this guy's doing high nose. I love high nose. It's the best. All right, so I'm on my deployed site. This one is Cookie. And I add the dog. Cookie gets added to the page. And see for yourself. I'm going to add this into chat. You should be able to see Cookie too. Because it's not on my computer anymore. It's on the internet because I made a full stack app. That's software development, man. That's all we do. Preguntas. Cool. I hope that helps for the days ahead.